The Collective Whisper Podcast with Simon K. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Collective Whisper Podcast. I hope you're well and everything's going good for you, and you're looking forward to Christmas, which isn't very far away, and we have an exciting guest for you this evening. But before we get to our guest, I'd just like to ask you and remind you, please, if you could follow us or subscribe and, give us some love, please. Thank you very much. You'll find it on our webpage and on our Facebook page as well. Thanks so much. Okay, so let's move on to our guest this week. This week, our guest is Mr. Darragh O'Dea. Irish songwriter Darragh O'Dea from Tuam is known for his wistful storytelling, creating nostalgic nuggets of joy and despair. His music conveys the mood and elements of his surroundings and is delivered in an honest and alluring manner. Released on the 29th of the 10th, 2021, the debut album, Tilly and the Postmaster, has been described as a love letter to Ireland, all its madness and beauty. Opening with a spoken word prelude from his grandfather and named after his grandparents, the record is full of colourful and engaging indie folk storytelling, including singles Split the Difference, La Résistance, the story of two childhood friends who struggle to hold on to the friendship as they become adults due to different political influences on their lives, Guerrilla Warfare in Your Back Garden, which features Birmingham singer Katherine Priddy, a song about fighting over land and inheritance, and title track Tilly and the Postmaster, a song touching on death during a pandemic and not being able to attend the funeral of your loved ones, written about his grandparents through the eyes of his grandmother. The album tracks have gone on to receive airplay on both BBC Radio Scotland, BBC Radio Wales, and be playlisted on RTE Radio 1. Okay, welcome to the show, Darragh O'Dea. How are you, Darragh?
I'm great, Simon. How are you?
Good. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me. How's life?
My life is good at the moment now, busy, but I think you're a bit busier. You're doing a few shows and your album's coming out, so you're happy about that.
Yeah, album's out tomorrow and a couple of gigs lined up as well. Celebrating it with a launch in Whelan's in Dublin on the 28th of November, and then doing a gig in Shamtown of Tuam on the 18th of December.
And for the people who are listening, whereabouts are you at the moment? Are you in Tuam or are you somewhere else?
I'm in Tuam, yeah, funnily enough. Well, I live in Tuam on the square with my girlfriend, but her parents are actually over visiting from Canada at the moment. So they had a trip to Belfast and kind of the last couple of days, and they came back today, so they're kind of tired. So they're in the apartment relaxing. So I'm actually back popped over to my parents' house, which isn't too far away. And I'm actually in my old bedroom. And it's
right.
It's not a bedroom anymore. It's kind of an office now for my mother. But I would have wrote my first songs here, actually, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is like a trip back in time for many different reasons.
Yeah.
And but that's good. Yeah. And it's probably funny being in that room because probably it was covered in posters and every kind of young man's stuff,
Yeah. I definitely have bits and pieces around the place. Yeah. I definitely remember my first CDs and my little CD player and all that in here, and learning guitar in here as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And how is Tuam at the moment? Like when you walk out your door in the evening now, is there much going on? Is it kind of getting back to normal?
Yeah, it's busy. Yeah. It feels like it's back to normal. I mean, I'm on the square, so I see everything that's going on. And it's busy. Weekends are busy, yeah. It feels like it's definitely coming back to itself. Yeah, it's a good bit of hustle and bustle about the place. And I suppose last weekend was the first weekend with pubs and that.
During COVID and the whole process of lockdown, did you take that time to kind of say, I'm going to work on material, I'm going to work on the album? Or, did you find it difficult during lockdown?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't. I think it's like I managed to get an album done because the boys I started to work with were definitely freed up a lot more. So it was like, we went into a little bubble, I suppose, with with kind of towards to finish off the album with Dylan Connolly and Evan Barrows at the end of it, mixing it and that kind of thing. And we kind of were meeting up a couple of times a week because everyone was free and had time. But yeah, I work as well and stuff, so it's like I was able to work from home. And
inevitable when you're stuck in the house, you'll do all those negative things, like you'll drink too much, eat too much. But when you can knock out an album during that time, that's not bad going. It kind of redeems yourself a little bit, no?
Yeah, I'm delighted that because it definitely would have taken another year, I think, if the world was moving normally.
And I have to tell any listeners who know us, because and anybody who knows us will say, oh, them two lads probably know each other. But for anybody who doesn't, some people in America, Australia, whoever's listening, me and Darragh know each other from Tuam. I used to live in Tuam for a long time, and I met Darragh years ago through music and teaching guitar, and Darragh playing guitar and the bands around Tuam. And, some of Darragh's bandmates played with me in one or two groups, and even names you mentioned there, Dylan Connolly, where there's a big connection there. There's like a circle, isn't there?
Yeah, you definitely taught half the lads around Tuam guitar, like, and
a bit. So some longer than others, but I had some lads through the door for a short while and some longer,
Yeah. So who did I play with that you thought then? You definitely, like, Richie was definitely going to you for bass. He had with bass, yeah.
Richie was Richie and his sister. Richie and his sister came to me for bass lessons, and I played with Rory in No Alibi for a long time. And Dylan Connolly was coming to me for a few years as well. So when he was much younger.
And Rory was playing drums with No Alibi, wasn't he?
That's right. Rory was the drummer. So it's mad, like, when you see those connections. But I think it's great, when I look and I see people like Dylan and, they've become really good guitar players, and you see them doing great work in the media and in recording and producing. I mean, it's brilliant. And I get a sense of pride, because you're like, that's brilliant, because it's nice to look back then and to see how lads have come on. And even yourself, I remember, I think when you started playing guitar, I think you thought you'd never do it. I think you thought you'd never be able to do it, because some people fall into it more naturally than others. And some people just find themselves later on. They don't, you know what I mean? They find it through another way. And even when it comes to like teaching guitar, some fellas would come, or girls, and they might only have one or two lessons, but then they discover it themselves. I taught myself, and I think I had 2 strings on the guitar for a year, just going up and down, playing notes. And you have to find your own way. And, and it's great to see yourself and the other lads around Tuam doing really well. It's good.
Yeah, you have to, yeah. I remember starting off, like, I was probably 18 really by the time I was trying to learn, like, and figure it out. And Rory was a brilliant player, like, and he showed me the first few chords, and he was like, come on, we'll do a few gigs, like. And I was like, do a few gigs? Me? And he's like, yeah, just play along to the songs, like. And he definitely encouraged me to do that right away. But it was like, for ages after that, like, when I knew I wasn't competent at all, like, and I was like, I needed to prove myself, That was a big thing for me, I think. After starting playing, it was like, right, what do you want to do? I want to be a songwriter. So let's make the songs I write be the best they possibly can, and just really work on that. And I suppose the guitar playing came along with that then a small bit, like,
The great thing about it is, for a lot of people, if they want to play guitar and sing Oasis or Blur or U2 or whatever, it's kind of that's the goal, maybe, to sing those songs. But if you're writing songs, it's a bigger goal, because the thing is, you have these melodies inside you, and you're like, I need a vehicle to get them out, whether it's a piano or a guitar or, a bodhrán. You need something. And the guitar and piano fall into that melodic kind of sphere where you're like, oh, right, I can play E minor and G all night long and still write a song. So it's great. And as your songs progress then and change, the melodies change, you learn more as well. So I think for anybody who's a singer-songwriter, that whole process of songwriting, we'll say, really teaches you the guitar as well.
Yeah, with my songs anyway, to date, I've always, like, well, since I've been doing solo stuff, it's kind of, the guitar follows the story. and the lyric and the way I want to convey that emotion. Like I'm always thinking about how I'm putting it out there vocally first, and then I try and figure out what the guitar is supposed to do. It's kind of about the connection, I suppose, with the song, and singing it as truly and honestly as possible, and then the guitar will catch up, hopefully.
But I just want to ask you now, obviously, going back a little, when you were young in Tuam, growing up in Tuam, where did you go to school again? What's the Brothers or Jarlath?
Secondary school in Jarlath.
And for you growing up in Tuam, I know a lot of your songs kind of echo growing up in Tuam, Ballygaddy Bridge, and the songs for the people at Tuam, and even Tilly and the Postmaster, obviously, about family. But for you, what's kind of your early recollections of Tuam? Did you find that it's a town that has evolved and changed a lot?
It has definitely evolved and changed a lot. It's quite a multicultural town now, which is class. But I think the core of it hasn't changed a whole pile. And the thing I love about it hasn't really changed, like the people and the G's and the humour, I suppose, and I suppose as a songwriter, like there's so many songwriters in the town, so it was definitely felt like I was kind of welcomed in quickly to that side of things, and I don't know, nurtured in a way and given a leg up.
It has a rich history, doesn't it? Because I mean, everything like Blaze X, the Water Boys, the Saw Doctors, and influences by the Water Boys, obviously. But you have so many Pork Stevens, what's his name, Seamus Rutledge. There's so many people around the town that are very creative, and now obviously you have younger people coming up, and it's a different era. But there's that legacy in Tuam of the kind of working man's music, and it's when I do tell people sometimes, they say, "Oh, what's the story with Tuam? Is it different?" And I'd say, "Well, when I was growing up, I remember people talking about the sugar factory and all kinds of people working there, and it was a thriving place. And then obviously the sugar factory closed, and lots of people lost jobs, and it was kind of during that whole depression, recession time, and things changed for people. And for a while then, Tuam got a bit of a bad name with fighting and so on. And but I think in the last 20 years now, it's really kind of come around again, and it's evolving into this musical town once again, isn't it?
It is. It's a great town. I don't think it's that different to any towns of its that are similar size, but it just has the songwriting thing, which sets it aside, I think, from other towns of the same size around the country, and that's just, I think, it's just a generational thing that it's handed down, where you see the generation above you writing their own songs and doing really well, and it's very much accepted in the town to do that, and to be proud of that. And you'll still get plenty of slagging and G's, but there's a lot more people there around you to confide in that are doing the same thing, and will be doing that are doing the same thing when they're 20 and they're still doing it in their 70s. Do you know what I mean?
The age thing in Tuam is not a divide, really, because in some types of music, for example, where it could be dance or rave or techno or rock, whatever. I mean, sometimes obviously age dictates what kind of music people listen to. But in Tuam, there's always that kind of music that's, I don't want to say middle of the road, but it's more easygoing and it's telling stories and everyone can listen to it. So whether it's an 18-year-old singing a song or whether it's a 65-year-old that everybody knows around the town singing a similar song, there's that kind of circle there where everybody's connected.
Yeah, there is definitely. There's something about songwriters in Tuam that are very proud of Tuam and very proud of place and are very proud to sing about it. I'm not sure what it is or why. Maybe it is. I don't know. Yeah, it's Tuam. I don't know. It feels like it is. Maybe it's just on the outskirts of the city, and maybe it has gotten a bit of flack over the years. And it's kind of like, no, Tuam's a great town. We're so proud of it. And when you do start to sing about it, you sing with great honor, I think, and with great pride.
Yeah, of course. And I suppose now, obviously at the moment with the whole Tune Babies thing, it's going through a lot of more flack, as you say, and but that's not the people of Tuam's fault, and that's not the town's fault. That's just the church and the powers that be. And unfortunately, that kind of thing went on in certain towns in Ireland, and Tuam was one of them. But I think the people of Tuam are kind of strong in that sense, and they will bounce back from that, and they'll get over that suffering. It's a very hard thing to get over for a lot of people, but it will also inspire a lot of other people in the way up to write songs, meaningful songs too, I think.
Yeah, I think so. With that, like it's part of the town. Like there's no denying it, and it's part of the history of the town, and you have to carry that with you. Like you know, it's never going away. It's not going anywhere. It's part of this place now, and it'll be known for that, recognized for that.
So, Darragh, for you going back, like when you were a teenager, did you find yourself like doing the normal things, playing football with jarlets and kind of being pushed in a direction and thinking, "Oh, I want to go in another direction"? Were you rebellious as a teenager, or did you kind of go along with things and change radically later on?
Definitely from a big sporting family, and I think, yeah, growing up, I was supposed to go that route, or that kind. My role models were definitely set out. They're great footballers in my family, and I played with Tuam Stars and enjoyed it. And went into Gerald, it's all right. No, I didn't really play, like a little bit in first year, but I'd lost interest, and I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And music was something was happening in me with music, that I could feel it in my soul, I suppose, but I didn't know how to do it yet, or didn't know if I was allowed to. Do you know what I mean? I suppose there was no. If there had been a role model or someone, there's no one really in the family who was like putting art out or putting music out or anything like that, or whoever pursued it really. Like, so maybe if there was, I might have done it a bit younger. But yeah, I think, yeah, played football with Tuam Stars and all that, up to stuck at it till minor, maybe up to 20, under 21 even. But I was starting to play music at 18. Something happened when I think I probably started drinking and that, and you're like, right, I can do whatever I want now, and you've a bit of confidence, and yeah, let's do my own thing and try and just be who I want to be, and try and figure that out and go down that path for a while and see what happens.
Yeah, because the thing is, obviously, for some people, with the left brain and the right brain, that's kind of used a lot. People say, "Oh, there's more creative people, and there's other people that fit into the sport and kind of slot and that category." But I think you can do them all, and you can try them all. I always remember when I was younger, and I used to do karate in Tuam there in the old what the Tuam Stars place, the old hall behind the courthouse, and I remember fellas because I was living in Currafin. I remember all the old fellas saying to me, "Oh, are you not playing football?" And I said, "No, I do karate." And they're like, "What's that?" So it's hard sometimes in Ireland to be different, to do something different, because everyone kind of goes, "Oh, sure, why wouldn't you play football?" And you're like, "Yeah, but I have a niche for this. I want to do something different." And I think that can be the way with music too. I always believe in Ireland, especially, people love it when someone succeeds with music, but as you get older and you're doing music, people are kind of looking at you like, "Are you still at the music and stuff?" And you don't know if are they asking in a negative way or a positive way. So you have to find your own path, don't you?
Big time, yeah. And it's part of Irish culture, which is great. The whole, like, with football and with traditions that are carried on, that need to be carried on. But when you're going to do something different, I suppose, in our generations as well, anyway, it's like you have to be brave, and you have to stick your neck out. And if you fancy being a bit fancy and artistic and that, like, you know what I mean, you have to you have to just brave and be ready to take a few digs, like, yeah, part of growing up, I suppose. Makes you stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of growing up. I mean, these are things we have to go through, and like I said, society is like that. people kind of give you a hard time if they're looking at you and you're not sure what you're doing. They're kind of like, what are you doing? Why don't you do this? And but then when you discover yourself, people are rallying around you going, oh, fair play to you, I always believed in you. You're like, I'm not sure, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I think at that stage, kind of finding your own tribe is the thing. And once you find that, you've your own crew around you and your sound, like, and you've that's important in life as well. And a great part of it, like, is when you find your own crew, like, and you don't really feel, I don't know, the judgment or the glare is coming from anyone else because you're doing your own thing. You're happy, like, and that's definitely something that happened. Lucky enough to find in Tuam, that there was a few of us around the same time, especially with the Ralphs, and we became best friends with through music, like, and still play together with the Raccoons whenever anyone's around, like, I think the last time I saw you was probably at a Raccoons gig in the Brogue. You were,
I think so. It was Christmas a few years ago.
Christmas a couple of years ago, yeah.
2 or 3 years ago. I haven't been home now nearly 2 years, so it probably was 2-3 years ago. I can't remember now, but I remember that gig actually. It was a good gig and a nice crowd in there, and upstairs in the Brogue, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah. They're great. We do them, I don't know, every now and again, just when whoever's around, like, and see what happens and whatever songs we remember from over the years. But I remember Connor Ralph, he's living in Dubai at the moment, but he was home and playing that gig, and I just remember he's a brilliant guitar player, like.
Yeah, Connor's great.
Oh,
Connor, that's the one I forgot. Connor was coming to me for ages.
Oh, was he?
Connor was there as well, because when you were mentioning the names, I was like, there's someone there I can't remember from that crew.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember, but it was Connor, yeah. And actually, Connor is on the podcast in a few weeks. We hooked up there a few months ago and did an interview.
Brilliant.
But yeah, Connor's great. Connor's a great musician, and that's what I mean. I think you said it there, that there was that kind of connection between you guys, between the Ralphs and Connor and yourself and Richie and all of that, and Rory. There was just that great kind of connection at that time, and you were able to form those different bands from it, and it was able to turn into something great, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. What I was saying there, I just remember Connor from that night now, so he might be wigging this, but he just had a killer guitar sound. He always did, but he's always lead guitar, and I remember him playing rhythm guitar that night, and it was just driving it, like, and it was dirty as feck, like, I think he was going for the real Mike Scott buzz,
Yeah, but that's great. I mean, yeah, that's really good, and those are great. It's great when we can look back and remember nights like those, great gigs and stuff.
It's deadly.
Well, I want to talk actually about family for a minute. So just tell us about your family, because obviously, when we talk about the new album, it's a big part of it is family. So when you're looking at, Tuam, and, I remember the post office there and the O'Deas being a big name around Tuam, obviously with football and with the post office. But family for you obviously is very important in Tuam, and there's a big connection with you and the rest of the family there, isn't there?
There is, yeah. I mean, yeah, family is so important. And with the album, I guess the title, yeah, it was always going to be the title. A couple of years ago, it's something that just twigged me, Tilly and the Postmaster, because my grandmother is Tilly and my grandfather Neil was the postmaster in Tuam, and he ended up moving from Tipperary, and the whole clan are from Tipperary. Like, really, Dad was 16 when he moved up to Tuam. And there was 13 kids in total. Some born in Tuam, but most in Tipperary. And then, just as I was working on the album, pandemic hit and lost both of them. During that time. So then, all of a sudden the title of the album was heightened and became even more important, and special. But yeah, I suppose, there was a point towards the end of their lives, and I was like, I just wanted to be around and I wanted to know more about their lives. And I'd recorded my grandfather a couple of years ago, telling his stories and just where he's from and where his mother was from and where his grandmother and grandfather were from, just for generations after me can know exactly where they were from and what they did and what lives they lived.
That's nice. I mean, to get that, to have it for posterity, and and the great thing about recording anybody like that, I even think about it. I always think like with these podcasts, it'll be great in 20 years that if someone can say, "Oh, geez, my dad was on a podcast. I remember someone talking about it." If their father's not here or their mother's not here, I mean, it's great when we can preserve those things and look back on them and say, oh, there was an interview with my grandfather or my uncle or whatever. And nowadays, obviously, with modern technology, it's a bit easier. But like you said, you have those tapes of your grandfather, and you'll always have them. I mean, if you look after them, but you'll always have them, and that's a great thing to have, isn't it?
Yeah, we have them there on for all the family, just on a private YouTube link, so you can just tap into them. So as long as YouTube doesn't go anywhere in the next 100 years, it'll be around.
Yeah, and a question I want to ask you about actually, when the your grandfather retired, and they were living in the house beside it, yes?
Yeah, the house next door to it, yeah.
Yeah. So they stayed there, didn't they? They stayed in that house, or did they move out of the house then?
No, they stayed in that house. Yeah, they stayed in that house right up until the end, yeah. Yeah, they were always there.
Wow. Yeah, because that was obviously there when you're on Circular Road or whatever, and you go to the post office, and your grandparents' house was right beside it. It was an important part of Tuam, like it was a historical thing there. And I remember, going to Jerry Lardner's to get your hair cut, and you pass by those buildings all the time, and then later on going into the door into the post office to get your dole or whatever. You know what I mean? So all those things are etched in your memory, and it's they're strong memories, aren't they? And I think a lot of people, when they think of the post office, they think of your grandfather and the O'Deas, don't they?
Yeah, I think definitely it is still a very important part of the community, the post office, but definitely over the years, everybody and nearly everything was done through the post office, so everyone knew the house, and it's a gorgeous house, gorgeous red brick house.
It's a lovely house.
And I had Jimmy Moran, actually. Jimmy Moran, he's Leo's son, and he's doing Jimmy Bricks, where he makes like houses out of Lego. Do you know, have you seen them?
Oh, wow.
He's an amazing talent for it. But I got him to make the house, and I gave it to Dad, actually, a couple of Christmas, or last Christmas, I think it was. But yeah, he did an amazing job. So we've the house, in Lego form forever. Like, yeah, it's awful cool.
That's really nice to have, isn't it? That's really cool. When when you were a teenager then, and you started kind of, when you were planning on leaving school and stuff, what kind of jobs? What was your first job? What did you do?
Jobs, yeah. During school, I was in Cosmo in the supermarket, stacking shelves. Then I moved over to Super Value and did the same thing there, but got the upgrade, which is kind of a downgrade, down into the basement. So when you're,
really?
But I love the basement because you'd be tucked away in there. Do you know what I mean? You'd be hidden. You don't have to. There's no one asking you where, whatever the nappies are, whatever. You're down there. The load's coming in, and you're stacking it away. I went to college then. Went to Sligo for a couple of years and did business studies, and they weren't letting me back for the final year. But my mother found a way to get me into Castlebar to finish it out. She was adamant. She was like, "You're not leaving," and I did it to make her proud. And but I'm glad I did, because I did a few things since then that I went teaching abroad like you did yourself, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without having the degree. And I had a couple of great years abroad and that as well, So I'm glad I did it. But yeah, I think leaving school, I didn't know what I was doing. I went to college for a while, and I was wondering. I was starting to play music, and I was a bit of a piss artist for a while, knocking around the place. And yeah, definitely when I finished college, then I was like, I want to write songs at whatever it was, 21, 22, and be like, I want to form a band somehow, and ended up forming the Coonix then when we were about, I suppose it would have been 23, like. That was my first proper band with with the lads, you know. Rory.
Before, like obviously you mentioned there you were traveling, and I think you were in Asia and a few different places around there, but did you bring a guitar with you, and were you playing music while you were there? Were you evolving your songwriting while you were there?
I picked up a guitar out there, right, and yeah, I was writing all right when I was. This is kind of later, like, because we did the band, and we had a great run with the band, and it was after the kind of bands ended, like with the Coonics. We were in first, and then we changed the name to Strange Boats, and after that, I thought it was kind of that was it, like, you know, and I was like, okay, I never traveled because we were trying hard to do something with the music, and put the songwriting on hold for a while. I think I didn't write a song for about 2 years after that Strange Boats album. But once I went out, I went to Asia, I went to Australia, and then ended up back in Thailand teaching English, and got a guitar there, and songs started to come again, you know.
The great thing about obviously traveling, it opens your mind up because, like you said there, you from what you saw before, you were looking at Tuam from the inside. But then when you go outside and you're in other countries and you're looking back and, the kind of like looking with Google Earth or something, you have a different perspective, don't you? And it changes your songs a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, big time. Yeah, I think you see that with a lot of songwriters as well. They move around and go to different places, or like never really understood the idea of, like, somebody goes a songwriter, if you have the funds or the capability to go away to somewhere or to write for a couple of months or something like that. But I think after writing while I was traveling, that I understand the benefit of it now.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to that time, the Coonics, that was like 2012, 2013, wasn't it? Around that time.
Did you know what, the band? I think we did our first practice around summer 2008.
You started before, but I'm talking more of the album release. You had an album release. Was it was it that, or am I wrong time entirely?
No, we had the Coonics were together. In 2008 we started doing a bit of practice, and then I think we might have done a gig that summer. 2009 there was an EP, and then 2010 we went on tour with the Saw Doctors in the UK. And then we came back from that, and we changed the name to Strange Boats, and the album came out around 2013. Then I think
when you became Strange Boats, and you released the album, it was it a time that you thought, okay, this could go somewhere, or did you find that like you needed more money for promotion and it was hard to do?
I thought, yeah, and enjoyed the process of changing band names, and that it was like, right, we can do whatever we want, and I don't know, maybe we beefed up the music of it and made it a bit harder, but I didn't. As things were going, we were releasing singles and things like that, and I wasn't sure if it was going anywhere, if you know what I mean. It was kind of like, but we were like four lads who had started doing it 5 years ago or something, and we were adamant that we were releasing an album of original music, So we stuck it out, like, and it was like grinding away and chipping in for recording, and we were hopeful that something might happen, that there might be enough interest in it to tour and, be, working musicians. But yeah, I think once it was out, we were a bit exhausted maybe, and it was like, yeah, best to leave that now where it is,
But obviously when you toured with the Saw Doctors, that was before the name change, I think. When you toured with the Saw Doctors, did you think, oh, well, this could be a really good thing for us now? It might give us a bit of traction. Was it hard coming back after that tour and then kind of going, oh, we have to start all over again or whatever? Was that difficult?
I think at the time when we went touring with them, I didn't really think about it. Like, the band was barely together, weren't even together 2 years, and we were still figuring out this whole being in a band thing and being on stage and playing guitar, and so it was just a whirlwind. Like, I just didn't really think about it at all. We're just enjoying the experience of it, and we knew, yeah, there was people on the tour and that were into us and were following us around, and they were showing up to the like the Sawducks have amazing fans, like people that go
Oh,
to
of
like when
course.
you go to those gigs, like the people that go to, they'll go to 6 or 7 gigs on the tour, like, um, which is amazing. Like that's their outlet, like, and they probably wait for this to come around every year, like, and they'll follow them around to whatever dates are fairly close to their hometown. But those people arriving that were coming to those, and they were arriving up front for our gig with the Coonix t-shirts on and that kind of thing. So you could get a bit of a vibe of it that, it was, we might have been growing or picking up a few fans along the way, but yeah, we were kind of in our own worlds at the same time, whereas we were worrying more so about writing the songs and playing the gigs and having the crack. I think we weren't looking at the business side too much at that point.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously, if you get a great opportunity like that to go with a band like the Saw Doctors and do some great tours, it's difficult sometimes to come back and say, "What next? Like, where do we go now?" Because for some bands, it might be too early. Maybe 2 years later they might be able to do that and then continue and expand on it. But for other bands, they might say, "Oh, geez, it was a fabulous opportunity, but we didn't have enough songs written and we couldn't continue it." So it's different for every band. But sometimes I see with bands like that playing support slots and they get a shot and they can do really well. But then you have to keep the momentum going, and that's really difficult.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me personally, it definitely kept the momentum going. I think I got a taste of that like so early on, and those gorgeous venues and the great steam on the road, and like playing original music, your own songs to people, and making a connection with people pretty early on. That it's still in me, that I'm still craving that, and I'm still trying to work towards that, like, and I think since I started doing the solo thing 4 years ago, I suppose, at this stage, um I'm working back to trying to get back and do a tour, and yeah, be a working musician doing original music in some way. It's um I'll be forever writing songs, and I'm never going to stop or putting stuff out, but I'm working towards being able to make it my main gig at some point, I suppose.
And it is possible. I mean, music is a very hard industry now because, if you're a small artist, you have to pay the bills still and, like everybody else, but you have to kind of rely on those tours and those small tours and gigs because, there's very little money to be made from record sales and streaming and all of that. So you have to have another income as regards like, touring, merchandise, whatever it is. So it is really difficult, and it's only getting more difficult as time goes on because of TikTok and all of these things. So, obviously, I think the pandemic shone a light on that because people couldn't play, and people who were like road crews and roadies for bands lost their jobs. And so, if you were a big time musician and had money in the bank, you weren't so bad. But for small time musicians, it was pretty difficult, no?
Definitely, yeah. And people that were gigging every weekend, they were hit hardest.
When people say, "Oh, the cover band scene or the wedding band scene," but they were probably hit the hardest because that was their total gig and income. That was, they were full time musicians, and they, suddenly it was just knocked on the head. I suppose for original artists, they might do a tour in the summer and have a few months off and write songs. And, they're surviving on whatever way they normally survive. But yeah, the wedding band singers and the wedding bands themselves found it difficult. And the DJs.
Yeah, definitely. I think anyone that, well, majority of people that are doing original music on a smaller scale have another job. Like, and so most were very lucky to have something to fall back on. Like, but yeah, people doing weddings and doing playing in pubs and events and everything like every weekend were definitely hit hardest, and especially when that's what you do, like that's what you get up out of bed to do. Very difficult last year and a half.
Can I ask you, just getting into your songwriting then and your style of music and the stuff you do, I just want to put a question before that. When you were, as a teenager and you started getting into music, I know you were playing football and everything, but when you first kind of said, "Wow, I really am getting into music and I love this kind of tunes," what was it? What was the kind of first band that did it for you or artist?
Hmm. Jeez, I don't know. I remember other voices being a thing when I was kind of like, I don't know, 16 or 17. The first series of that was on, and you had I always remember Josh Ritter and Simple Kid and Damien Dempsey and those lads, and there was something about that I thought those songs, I'd like to do something like that, or like to write. They're writing, they're making a connection with me here somehow, and it doesn't look like, or I feel like maybe I could do it, you know. They're still some of my favorite songwriters ever. Like, I think Damien Dempsey and Josh Ritter are two up there that are kind of lads with acoustic guitars doing that thing. But yeah, I know I got into every kind of music after that. But and I think, well, around Tuam as well, like there was so much going on, like with Nolly MacDonald would be kind of in that vein as well, and he was doing original music and releasing albums, and Stone Lakes were doing the same thing. And then you have the Saw Doctors, and I think the first proper concert I was at was the Saw Doctors out in Cloughan-Over. And I kind of got really into them at one point, which I think most young lads in Tuam do at some point, like, because they're, especially when they're writing about the town that you're from. It's kind of unbelievable at the start. You're like, why are there all these songs about Tuam, and what's the story? But really, they're just honest, kind of, they're a bit of devilment, like, and not taking themselves too serious and that. But I think when you first get into them, you take them very serious. You know, you're like, this is my Bible. But there was all sorts. I remember getting into Dylan as well around that time and just been obsessed, like.
One artist there, obviously you mentioned Damien Dempsey, and I find some of your music slightly like that, you know, because obviously, you know, Damien Dempsey started out as a kind of spoken word poet, and he's some of his songs, you know, have different styles entirely, because, you know, it's like I was telling somebody on the show there recently about Damien Dempsey and how he if I play him in the car, for example, and my kids go, "Oh, he's singing it really weird," and then you'll put on another song and he's singing very melodic, you know. So sometimes he can have the real brogue, he can be very Irish, and other times he's more melodic, like I don't want to say like a pop singer, but like a crooner, you know. And he can really change his voice, and so I think he's very diverse like that, and he's very varied in his songwriting. But you know, when I was listening to some of your stuff now over the last week or so, you know, I'd heard it before, but when I took a deeper dive, then there's traces of that in your songwriting. You know, you have that kind of poetry in there that maybe wants to be a song, or a song that wants to be poetry, but there's a good mixture there.
Yeah, he does that brilliantly. Like, he's amazing artist, and he's so true to himself and so passionate, and he's, yeah, like you say, with different styles and vibes going on with him and different ways of singing. It's like he does what he feels in the moment, and and he writes the way he's feeling in that moment. That's why the songs come out different ways, which is great. He's not trying to do the same thing over and over.
No, and that's brave. I mean, that's hard to do, because for a lot of artists, you know, they'll say, "Oh, my style is like the Red Hot Chili Peppers," and you know, and you kind of do all the songs like that, and then if someone says, "Oh, well, let's do a reggae one," if the other people in the band are going, "Are you fucking mad? What's wrong with you? We're not a reggae band." But being a solo artist, you kind of have that bit of freedom, as long as you're working, obviously, with good people who won't, you know, stand in your way, where you can say, "Well, I fancy doing something different. This is what came out last night. This is the way I want it to be," you know, and that's a great thing.
You have to be ready for people to lose people along the way, for people to be really into a particular song or a particular album, but you want to grow and do something different the next time, and they're not into it at all, and it's not their thing, and you know, suddenly they have no interest, which is fine, you know. But you have to be willing to, like, you can't write songs for one particular person who loves a particular thing you do. You just have to write them for yourself and grow that way, like, and be willing to, like, shake off a few along the way because you're doing your own thing, like, but that's fine. Like,
a good example of that was Dylan, obviously, when he picked up the electric guitar and, people shot him down and stuff. But, for all the albums Dylan has brought out and other songwriters of his caliber, you can't keep doing the same album. And even if you do a style for 4 or 5 albums, maybe you're thinking, I want to do something different. I want to play the electric guitar on this album, or I want it to be more percussive. Look at Paul Simon. If Paul Simon had said probably to the record company, I want to do an album with African singers and African musicians, they'd be like, are you mad? So, but yet that was a huge success. So that's the great thing about songwriting, is that if you're true to yourself, you'll get your own success by being different whenever you want to be different.
Yeah, you have to keep it interesting for yourself is the thing. Like, and I know we were talking about Dylan there, but even if his live shows, he's doing his own thing. You know what I mean? And because he wants to, and he's comfortable doing whatever he does with the particular song that night, and more power to him.
Yeah, he changes it on the fly if he wants, and it's funny when you watch Dylan sometimes, and you see that time when Tom Petty's band used to play with him and everything, and he'd stop the band and he'd say, no, that's wrong, start again. And other bands would be mortified. They'd be like, you made us look like an idiot and you can't do that. But he's thinking, well, I'm the boss, I'm the captain here. So if I don't like it, we're going to start it again, and that's kind of somebody more or less saying to the people and the media and the press, look, I do what I want. That's why I am where I am, because I'm a free spirit.
People are attracted to original artists for that, and people that completely do their own thing and are free in their own way. So it's kind of like when they're attracted to that, you don't really owe them anything. It's a tough one. Like, it's because people will, they pay for a concert ticket, I suppose, to see particular songs. Like some people would, but at the same time, you don't owe them anything. Really, like, they love you because you're completely original in what you've done. So if you go up there and do your own thing, they mightn't get it in that moment, but maybe down the line they will.
Yeah, and you said something there that kind of echoes with me, is the fact you said they don't own you, and that has become really more evident in the last few years when you look at, like, obviously with streaming platforms, because in the past, people went out and bought albums and sacrificed their pocket money or what their wages for merchandise and things like this. But nowadays, the artist only really makes money on the tour, because some people will buy the album, but a lot of people will listen to it for free on Spotify and stuff. So because of that, then they have this thing where the value isn't quite the same for them as if you paid $12.99 for the CD as in the past. So that for me is the sad part now, because I remember going into Chicago and buying an album and you didn't have the money for it, and you're like, oh, but I really want to hear it, and you'd pay the money. So you really valued that artist at that time, and they were the be all and end all. But nowadays, because you get it all free and the artist has to give everything free, people can kind of stick around and move on. The true fans are the ones who come to the gigs, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. Times move on, and it keeps changing and moving on, and this whole streaming thing will move on eventually again, but that's where it is at the moment. The sales of vinyl and that are definitely on the increase, and the likes of Chicago have rakes of vinyl in there, and there's loads of people buying them. But obviously, yeah, it's going to be, for a younger generation, when it's so accessible, you're going to be streaming it for whatever, half nothing. But it's definitely an older generation that are working on that are buying vinyl now again. But it's happening, like, because people want something tangible, I think, and they want something to hold, or if there's a bit of artwork on an album, it becomes, something very special when you own it. Yeah, it's kind of like the last few years, it's been completely streaming and that, but I see things changing, and I think that's the way the music industry constantly does. It's constantly changing, like, and streaming will be there forever. Vinyl will be knocking around for another few years. CDs will get popular. Tapes are on the way back. They'll go out. Vinyl will come back in. Streaming will be, do you know what I mean?
What do you make of, the whole NFT thing? Have you looked into that?
What's that?
You haven't seen the NFT. So the NFTs are, obviously now with all this cryptocurrency and the blockchain and all of that. But NFTs are this new type of basically what they are. If you bring out an album and you can sell off parts of that album or particular songs for cryptocurrency. But now it's becoming a big thing in America because what can happen is people auction for it. So they don't own the rights to the music, but they own that particular thing. I don't understand it fully myself, but I was reading an article about it the other day, and they think now, obviously, because of TikTok and how big an influence it is on young people and with music, that these NFTs are going to become the new way that musicians make money, because they're not really making it from streaming, and the record companies are still trying to control it. But when you do the NFTs yourself, which is basically like, it's kind of like online merchandise, really. What happens then? The artist has more control. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I don't fully understand it, as I said, but it is on the horizon.
Yeah, I can't wrap my noodle around that now either. I don't know what you're on about, but yeah, I suppose, cryptocurrency is is big business these days, like so.
Well, it's the thing about it is, the way to look at it, I suppose, when people go to your show and they can buy the vinyl or the tape or the CD there, that's great, and the merchandise. But now, obviously, because people do so much online shopping and online browsing and listening, they're trying to reinvent the internet in such a way that, to make money, whether it works out for the artist or not. But yeah, of course, all these new cryptocurrencies and blockchains and things like this will change it for every type of artist, whether it be like an artist who paints, whether it be a singer, because it'll be new ways of making money.
Yeah, interesting.
Confusing, though. Confusing.
Yeah, confusing money.
Confusing money. Yeah, exactly. You'll be like, am I earning money? I haven't a clue.
What's that?
So let's get on to your songwriting process. So, obviously, when you did the Mary Robinson EP and, your new album is out, Tilly and the Postmaster, but how has your songwriting process changed, or is it still the same as when you first started writing?
I don't know, really. I think I've always just, it's always been phrases and things that I just come into my head when I'm out walking around the place, and I'd write down in my phone, or ideas for songs, but would always just start with a phrase or a line, or the opening line will come to me and I know exactly what the song's going to be about.
Do like I do? Do you like murmur into the phone? And because if you're where somebody can hear you, sometimes I listen back to ideas after songs and it's like, but it's lower volume because maybe you're walking on the street or you're somewhere where you don't want anyone else listening.
I would, all right, but only if it's a lyric, never if it's a melody I'm trying to capture. It's only just always a lyric like that I'd speak into, but usually I just put them into the notes, like. Yeah, that's generally how it's always been. I never really pick up the guitar with a melody and then try and put lyrics to it. I always am writing the lyrics.
Words come first.
Yeah, and I rarely try and write down the whole thing as poetry. I'll get the first 3 lines and I'll pick up the guitar and feel the vibe, whatever it's supposed to be, and then I'll write on with that. And often what I do is I'd have a couple of songs written around the same time, a couple of phrases around the same time. So there might be 3 of them with different melodies, but because they're written around the same time, they're interchangeable. They're very similar themes, and I'd end up at the end where I'm trying to write 3 songs, I'll end up bringing them into one.
Yeah, well, that kind of happens, I think, because sometimes you might write a song and it reminds you of another song you could have written 6 months before, and you might have the intuition to go, maybe they'll work together. Maybe they'll work together. If it happens in and around the same week, you're writing those, as you said, 2 or 3 songs, and you're like, okay, maybe that first song is actually the bridge of this song, and maybe that's the verse, and so on. That's good. But do you get the idea and then like work on it straight away, or do you put them away for a while and come back to them?
I try to be constantly working on them. I'd always have like a couple of songs that are half finished, and I try pick up the guitar every day. And generally what I do is, without thinking about it too much, is just I go through each of them, because when they're new like that, you really enjoy playing them. Like, so I'll do the first one and get halfway through it and if I'm enjoying it and think something's coming, I'll go back and do it again, and I could be on that for an hour. But if I play it the first time and it's I kind of know tonight's not the night, that I'll move on to the next one, like just naturally, like, because the next one might be more enjoyable to knock around by here for 10 minutes.
You know, do you have like songs that are, you know, A songs, B songs, C songs, like songs that you think, okay, you know, that those ones are, you know, good. The other ones are maybes, and the other ones I'll put them away. Do you have songs like that then maybe later become like the C song becomes the A song? Do you have songs like that?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've already got songs. I'm already can see the next album in my head, like, you know, and I've 8 songs like I'm like, okay, and there's 5 of them that I'm like, oh, that's definitely going on it. I'm loving that. That's a great buzz, and I can hear the whole band and the arrangement and exactly what the lads will be doing in that. But then there's one at the end that I'm like, yeah, kind of enjoying it, but it's like I have no idea where it's going to go or what it'd be like with a band, or it doesn't sound amazing as just an acoustic track. So it might be nothing, but that could end up being a bridge for something else, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you were working on the songs at home, and you know, were then thinking, okay, I want to bring these to the studio, do you play them with the live band first, kind of rehearse them, or do you go to the studio and track them? What way do you kind of do it?
It's been a change in process since I started doing the solo thing. The Mary Robinson EP was largely solo, but with Rory coming in and putting down a bit of bass and a bit of guitar. And then with this album, it kind of started off, it's nearly actually 3 years ago at this stage, that I went in and did the song called The Whole of Ireland and the Irish Sea. And I put down electric and acoustic guitar and was kind of wondering what to do with it. And then I felt I needed drums, and I got on to Ricky O'Neill, and he came in and put down drums. And then I was doing that with Kenny Rafe and Sun Street, and he was thinking there was a pedal steel vibe off it, and I got on to Dave Clancy, and he came in. So this is all separate weekends, really, like. And then Rory came in and put down some bass, and we kind of did that track there. And I was doing the same thing for Guerrilla Warfare on the album, and I'd recorded an acoustic version, and I wasn't enjoying playing it. And then I changed the chords and got other people in, and then still didn't like it. And then I got onto Dylan and Evan, and we jammed it out live. And we got a feel for it right away. So that was one that we jammed out, and kind of the rest of them that I did in Dylan's studio, like Tilly and the Postmaster and Split the Difference, we ended up jamming them out and figuring them out. So there's a couple of the tracks were built as we went along, and a couple of tracks were kind of jammed out live like that. And there was a third studio involved as well. Like I was out in MixerCon. Do you know Mixer?
The Stables, yeah, Mixer.
Yeah, and the Stables, and that was a different process again. And these were kind of, so Started and Kenny's actually went to Mixers, and himself and Kira Finan have a band called New Beast.
Yes,
amazing,
that's right.
And
that's
really
right.
creative, and great musicians to do with them. And kind of the last couple of songs on the album, the likes of Swear to God and Music as a Religion with the strings and stuff on it, and a lot more keys, were done there because Kira put down keys and lots of fiddle. But they were also, I went in and put down acoustic guitar, and we built on them. And I don't know, they're kind of a bit more like scores, and they're very creative, those ones. We were just seeing what happened with them, and we were adding different parts as we went on. But at the very end, it became a bandy thing with the two boys jamming out the last few songs to put on it. So it was, yeah, it's changed, you know.
But that's good. I mean, obviously having the different studios and, you know, different people working on them as well gives you a different feel. And you can hear it, like I was saying earlier, the first half of the album is different and the second half is different. But somebody else could listen and say, no, I see like there's, you know, 3/3 there. I mean, there's different parts. But, you know, I think that's a good thing. I think you have to be brave sometimes and say, no, I'd like to actually try this song in that studio because that person might put a different feel on it. And as well for you going forward, it's given you that courage that the next time you do an album, you could say, I'll work with one producer, but you could also say, no, I want to try a few different people. I want to see what I can do with this.
Yeah, I was definitely searching and trying, and wanted to work with different people and see what they made of the songs, I suppose, or what they could bring to it, and I'm delighted I did that with the album. But it was a very natural and general thing that, like, I had always recorded with Kenny, and I started off with the first couple of songs there, and then Mixer I'd always meet around the place, and maybe say, let's do a track or something, let's try it out, and went down and ended up doing 3 there, and then got on to the 2 lads very naturally to have a jam on a song, and realised Dylan had a studio and he was very capable of producing, and we ended up doing a couple of tracks there, and brought them all together, very quite easily, like, really, which is great.
Yeah, and that's good because it naturally evolved, And now Dylan plays with you when you're touring, doesn't he, as well?
So the last couple of gigs, yeah, Dylan has played and on guitar, and Evans on drums, and Richie McDonough's on bass, and then Rory's been on keys. We did a gig over in Birmingham recently, like, with great crack, and that was the band. And then for a couple of the album gigs now, Ciara Finan played fiddle on the album loads and keys and stuff, so she's coming in. So we're gonna have a right big band for these album launch shows, and do it right,
Well, that's good. I mean, and it's good, and there's a lot of diversity between the musicians there. They're all kind of connected in a lot of ways, but they're different in their own ways. So I think you'll have a really good band there, and a really good sound as well. And as you play together more, the band will get tighter and tighter.
Yeah, and everyone's bringing their own thing. Like, everyone is, it's different, slightly different generations going on, and people coming from different backgrounds and stuff, which I love. Like, and I love anyone bringing their own thing to a live set, or suggesting anything at all, like, that they'd like to try on a song. Like, I'm very, 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 very open to that. Like, and just making, I don't feel like a live show has to sound like the album, I feel like they can be 2 completely different things. Like, the songs can sound completely different. It could be different takes and vibes, as long as we're having fun, and we're really feeling it, and we're all grooving, and we're a unit together up there. That's all that matters, because I think, like, a live gig is a snapshot, like, of that one night, and it's like, that's why I go to gigs as well, like, to see what they might do that particular night. I don't want a band to come out and just do the album exactly like the album, like, there's always the phrase of, you could close your eyes and it sounded like the CD,
Yeah, but you don't want that either. You want differences.
No, I want a couple of bum notes, and I want a couple of flat notes, and I want boys half falling over,
Yeah, you want to extend a song sometimes, or even mix songs, and that's possible when you do it live. Looking at obviously the track listing for the album and everything, what songs for you, have you songs that you kind of go, they're my favorites, or does it change for you after a while working on them?
I guess the ones I enjoy playing live, I really enjoy playing Swear to God live. So I like the way it builds, and I'm really comfortable just doing whatever take on it I feel on the night. There's a nice crescendo to it, and I don't know. I enjoy them all, really, probably.
And more importantly, obviously, when you put the tracks on the album, was there some that you left off that you kind of were thinking, I'd love to put them on, but I think that's it. That's the 10 now, or, because that's a hard thing for people sometimes, which songs to put on, because they could have a lot more and they're like, okay, we have just enough, which is great. But sometimes you have another 4 or 5 and you think they're gems as well. And do I wait for the second album, or, that's hard.
At the time, they were definitely going to be the 10 songs. But as the last couple of songs were being recorded, some new songs were coming to me. Like, I was writing still, and new songs were coming. But no, it would have taken too long. It's a process. The songs were pretty much finished, like in the recording, and there was a couple of songs that I'd written, and you always think your newest song is the best. That I thought, oh, maybe we could slot that in, but yeah, no, I made peace at some point where it's like, no, we'll leave them now for the next one.
There's plenty of time. So, obviously your tracks so far, they're getting good reviews, and you're been on BBC Radio Scotland, BBC Radio Wales, and playlisted in RTE. So that's good. I mean, before the album obviously even comes out, you've got a good bit of traction on the singles.
Yeah, I kind of do the thing like of, you have an email database, where you send out your single to everyone, like, and see is there any reaction. And I sent a lot to the UK this time, like, and I was getting way more reaction over there, like, for some reason. Like, there was a lot of, like, smaller radio stations that I just found addresses for online, unsolicited emails out to them.
Everybody has to do it.
I always wonder how many they get, like, and it's like,
yeah,
being
especially when it gets into thousands, and stuff, and you're getting replies back saying, "Don't email us again."
You never get replies, like, they don't even let you know they're playing it after they tag you. But so there was a kind of a bit of bit more of a buzz happening over there, and I ended up then, like, the whole process. At the end, I said, all right, I'll do the last single, Split the Difference now, which is coming out with the album on the same day tomorrow, I suppose, really. But so I found a PR person, lad, or just like a radio plugger style mush in England, and was like, let's have a go at this and push this. And the funniest thing that happened with that, like, a lot of little radio plays and stuff in England, but because of him, he also sends it to Ireland, and it ended up getting on the Radio 1 playlist through him. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of, it's going out and coming back in, whereas from the inside, I wasn't getting on those on that list at all, like, which I found, which was interesting and funny, like,
Well, I think that's the thing nowadays with promotion, because promotion is as much of part of the game as it ever was, and more so because of social media. And for a lot of artists, they're like, Jesus, I have to figure this out, and how do I do this, and what the hell, they're saying, oh, you need to be on Instagram, you need to be on TikTok, and you're like, Jesus, how does that work, and how do I do this? And you hear people saying, oh, you have to be posting 7 times a day, and you're like, I don't have time for all of this stuff. So it's really difficult to do promotion. So, but that was good. I mean, you got the radio plugger because he did his job for you, and it had a different turn, and you probably expected it first in England, and then Ireland came about quicker.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, there's releasing music, it's like all these other things afterwards are the most important thing. You write the song and you get the album together and the artwork and you get a nicely packaged, but if you're not getting it out to anyone or nobody's hearing it, it dies a death, like. And unfortunately, there's an awful lot of work in the promotion, like, and social media side of things, and getting out to pluggers and PR people and all that. But it is what it is. That's just the industry, like.
I've experienced that with music in the past, and I'm experiencing it now even with the podcast, because it's hard to turn people on to whatever you're doing if they never hear you. And the thing is, I'd be always laughing. I said to my wife, oh, sometimes I feel like I'm posting too much. But then you look at it, somebody else says, yeah, but you do realize, like, those posts are only maybe being seen once by somebody. You kind of think, I don't want to be flooding people with too much stuff. But the whole way it works, obviously, is you could put 10 posts up and you might only see one of them in the day. So it's really difficult to understand a lot of it sometimes, the whole algorithm and how it works. But I mean, it's great now there are experts, but unfortunately for a lot of those experts, they want to be paid much better than the artist is getting paid.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's a huge expense on top of your recording, But it's
but necessary.
It is, yeah. If there's any chance of you getting heard by someone that might get you a gig at some point,
It's another form of investment, because a lot of musicians and singers, they love doing the album, making the album, and then, maybe doing the artwork, as you said, all of those things. And then, they're looking forward to playing live. But obviously, to get traction on the album and to get gigs, you have to do promotion and you have to invest, whether it be money and time. You need to invest both of those two things to get anywhere.
Yeah, it's true. And I know of a few, great writers and musicians around the place that just aren't arse at the moment because of the social media world. There's like, I can't do it. I'm not arsed. And it's like, nobody's going to listen to you unless you're constantly promoting yourself, or, you've the right social, whatever, pictures up there to, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's brilliant. I think fair play to you. You've, as I said, you've evolved, and from the Kunix and Strange Boats, and now this new you. It's still the same you, but it's a new version of you, and it's. I think it's great because sometimes it can take a few years, and in 5 years you could be something different, but I think what you're doing right now is great. I mean, the album is fantastic, and I think it will do well. Of course, it's going to be a lot of hard work for you, but I think you can do it. And I think the gigs are going to go down very well. And, your next gig is where? It's Whelan's. Is that the next one?
Whelan's, yeah, November 28th.
November. And then you're playing in Tuam in December, aren't you?
Tuam in the Mall on December 18th.
Wow, that's really good. Coming home.
Still only over the road, like.
Over the road.
I can walk the ear down.
That's one of those gigs, if you forget something, you're like, let me just run back to the house for it,
Yeah, or if you break a string, halfway through a song, you can tell them to hold on. I'll be back in a minute.
You'll be saying to Rory, go down the bike there to the house.
Yeah, on a scooter.
On a scooter. Yeah, well, that's the new thing now. Electric scooters, you'll be able to whiz down,
Yeah.
So listen, come here. Thanks very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I've really enjoyed the chat, and it's great reminiscing about all those memories in Tuam. And, I'm sure you're going to have a lot more new memories to come from Tuam and all the surrounding towns, countries, everything. So you're going to play a song for us to see us out, aren't you?
Am I?
I think you might.
Okay, all right. Oh, bother.
What are you going to play for us?
So we might do the title track, Tilly and the Postmaster.
Well, I'll say goodbye to you, and I'll let you play it out. So thanks very much, Darragh O'Dea. The new album will be coming out on the 29th of October, and Darragh will be touring in Dublin and Whelan's, and he'll be playing in Tuam, and I'm sure there'll be many more gigs. So thank you very much, Darragh. We've enjoyed having you on. Best of luck with everything.
Thanks, Simon. Appreciate it. Great to chat to you. We let them down into the ground, surrounded by close family. Wasn't there but in a chair, watching it on a screen. No, he'd laugh at the thought of that after the close life we shared. 14 kids, 13 left, and George, who you're with now somewhere. Tilly and the Postmaster. A mother to us, a mother to young, a mother's work's never done. A mother you'll find will nurture and mind. My mother, I never knew mine. Tipperary starry stole my heart, a rebel and a king of sport. Well read and distinct, fond of a drink, he gave it up when I needed him most. Tilly and the Postmaster.
will see us soar through loving and through life. Treat all the same, we're all but a name, that there's my only advice. Live my life through my kids, and through them I'll never die. Strong enough now for long enough, is that something in your eye? Tilly, yeah, postmaster. Tilly, yeah, postmaster. Tilly, yeah, postmaster. Tilly, yeah, postmaster. Okay, thank you very much, Darragh. We really enjoyed that interview, and it was great having you on and reminiscing about some memories from Tuam and about some people we both know collectively. So I enjoyed that, and thank you very much for playing some music for us also. It was really interesting and very nice, and we wish you the best of luck with your new album. Sounds great. It's a very natural, raw, honest album, and I particularly like some of the tracks. Really nice and well done, very well put together. So thank you very much, and best of luck with everything. Okay, thank you everybody for listening to this week's episode of the Collective Whisper podcast. My name is Simon Kay, and I want you to look after yourself and look after everybody else. And please subscribe and follow us and keep giving us the love. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.